All right, guys, welcome to the PhaseTwo podcast. Welcome back for our valued listeners around the globe. We're here with my brother Dan and our good buddy Alex, all the way from Canada.
Yeah.
Landmark occasion today. It's our first foreign national.
So in honor of our landmark guest, should we crack beers in his honor?
Yes.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Is that okay? I mean, in Canada, what time is it right now?
It's beer o'clock.
It's beer o'clock. All right.
Correct. There we go.
Yes.
Here's
cheers.
to you.
Cheers, boys.
And we say cheers in Canada as well, right?
Yeah, cheers.
Santé or
Just cheers.
what about Quebec?
Cheers. It's in the French terms.
In the French cheers.
So I wanted to compliment you because I'm not sure if a lot of people knew that people in Canada
good.
actually do speak English. Like your English is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But he's more comfortable in French, actually. I don't know if you knew this about Alex.
My French is very, very little. We only need
Say something in French, in Canadian French, because it's different, right?
Yeah, a little
French
different.
Canadian, I believe.
Say like something you're very confident about it.
Ne pas parler français.
Ooh. I like Netflix and chill is what I heard.
Netflix and chill.
Could you say that again because I mean the subtitles definitely have to come out. specifically.
And our listeners in
we have
Paris,
subtitles,
please feel free to leave comments.
Ne pas parler français.
Ne pas parler français.
Yeah.
That's
Ne
nice.
pas parler.
You definitely said something.
Actually, I don't know if you knew this, Alex.
I don't speak French.
My brother is a French major. That's what he studied in college.
He's almost Canadian then, right?
Pretty much. And also, I'm also quite happy today that you dressed in traditional attire.
This is your traditional garb.
This is actually I've sort of acclimated to the Korean temperature here. This is Korean stuff here.
But the thing is you don't have an over jacket. Like I took off my parka to sit down.
Yeah.
You came like that.
Yeah, this.
So it was negative in the negatives today. It was when I woke up, it was -6.
That's Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
Yeah, okay.
Centigrade.
Yeah.
So this is appropriate for a Canadian. No parka, just
Right.
a flanelle.
This is pretty warm stuff, though.
A flanelle.
Yeah, this is
Flanelle.
warm. This is nice and warm. Okay.
So maybe because like a lot of people probably don't know how we all know each other. Should we dive into that and kind of talk?
Sure,
about how
sure.
We meet? Because
Alex, super humble guy, but runs the best, in my opinion, sports bar in Korea, chain of sports bars. He was in our neighborhood. We used to go to your rival, who you've since. We don't have to talk about that here. He's no longer with us.
May he rest in peace.
Sports bar is a little far fetched too.
You wouldn't call it a sports bar?
I think we can.
I think if there's a pool table, there's sports going on.
Yeah, but I think sports would have to be on the televisions at all times if it was.
What would you call it?
Just your local watering hole, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think like that's probably true. Like in Korea, almost every bar, like most bars, have pool tables, right?
They got pool tables.
So they're not.
But I did watch the Super Bowl. Lost a bottle of Jameson at your bar.
Yeah.
But like when we think of sports bars in the States and Canada, we're thinking of like
just pass the ball.
Like we're thinking of like just monitors
But
everywhere.
you play a lot of sports.
Yeah.
And you, on the screens, whether it's snowmobiling across like snowmobile races or whatever, there's a lot of. But yeah.
Yeah. So like maybe before we go into how we know each other, like why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us your story about how you came to Korea?
All right. Long story short, we don't.
Awesome story here.
Yeah.
Story time, Uncle Alex.
Yeah. 2008. Just finished university and no work in Canada. I think it was 2006. I graduated university and worked a few odd construction jobs with a degree and found it wasn't my thing. And I had a few friends teaching English here in Korea, ESL, and I jumped on the plane.
Canadian friends or Tennessee friends?
Canadian friends, yeah, hometown, and they did a 1-year thing together, a married couple, and then they toured Asia and say, why don't you come replace me?
Yeah,
and sure, why not? I was pretty much a free bird, and nothing holding me down, and came to Korea, 2008 September. And replace them right in there.
But I mean, you had like a really interesting like journey because you're born in Canada and then you got into baseball went to the States on a baseball scholarship.
Not just anywhere in the States, though.
Tennessee.
Country music.
Right? Yeah.
Went to Tennessee to play
Before the Canadian jokes start with the flannel, like this is pretty Tennessee.
For sure.
Here,
and it's actually for Seattle, when we had grunge and stuff, flannels were very cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I still listen to that stuff.
You take that road, you go to Tennessee, and then you jump on a plane to come to Korea. So it's like you couldn't go to 2 more different places: Canada, Tennessee, and then Korea.
Yeah, Korea definitely way off the spectrum.
It is Tennessee now, so because you're kind of from the countryside in Canada, is our country? You you didn't go to America; you went to America.
Yeah.
Like that's like real Dixie. Is that a lot different than culturally from where you're from in Canada?
Population-wise, no, not really. I think the speed of lifestyle, not really as well.
So it wasn't that big of an adjustment?
It wasn't much of a difference. Like I was in East Tennessee, Smoky Mountain region, Cumberland Gap. I come from a small town.
Just those names, I thought of like 4 country songs.
Right,
John Denver, Darius Rucker.
There's a few of them. Small town in Canada where, like I said earlier, there was, 2 traffic lights 25 minutes away to the nearest grocery station.
Yeah.
Grocery station, gas station, grocery store.
You can't even speak English anymore, can you?
Do it,
I love it.
I'm trying to,
So when you left Canada, was that like a pretty big decision for you? And then you go down to Tennessee, and then like was anything shocking? Like you go down there, you probably didn't know anybody.
I didn't know anyone, but I'm just rolling with it. You gotta.
Like fuck it, just take some chances.
Just take some chances.
But
we all had the common ground of baseball.
Baseball, right?
And that was easy. We're all mingling amongst athletes, and academics was a secondary behind baseball.
But I mean, how'd you get into baseball in Canada? Because like it's not like a super popular.
Isn't hockey? Was hockey more important where you're from? Because where my dad's from, basketball was not important, but he played basketball. Hockey was way more important in Upper Michigan.
Right.
In Upper Michigan, yeah.
Which is basically southern Canada.
Like
Southern Ontario.
Like
deep South
pretty
Ontario.
Much. You guys are Southern Canadian, man, especially from Michigan. Upper Peninsula is beautiful, but hockey. It's like I was the only one growing up not playing hockey. We'd play on the neighborhood rinks. I'd skate around with all the hockey boys, all my good friends.
So you can skate?
A little bit.
That's crazy.
We
cannot skate. My dad can skate.
He almost looked offended. It's
like with Australians, he's like, "Can you surf?" They're like, "Can I surf?"
No, it's like the look that you gave my brother that time reminded me of the look that you gave me when I was like, "Are your wings any good?" And you were like, "Yeah, there are."
Yeah, just try them. Try them. No, it's skating. You got to do it. Like we would even the rinks weren't frozen, but you'd have one of our local friends. We'd pull up our parents' cars in high school, put the lights around the pond, and the pond was lit, and we would skate around.
Now that's a very
like this is a true
my dad
story,
used to do this before there were lights on the basketball court. He'd just pull up the car. And shine the headlights. We play basketball all night.
High school, you're breaking the rules a little bit. You can't hang out at the local skating rink because there's so many people around, and so we'd just go to the pond and play some hockey.
So it wasn't the rink; it was like a frozen.
It was a pond. Yeah.
Anybody ever fall in the pond? Because that seems
the
like
pond,
a common.
Everyone's been falling in. Everyone's fallen.
Everyone's cracked the ice.
Cracked the ice. Yeah.
Dude, we need to get Alex a Rosetta Stone for English again. I do that too, though. I've been in Korea so long. Sometimes I say like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the home today."
Yeah, the home. Falling through the ice.
I was just thinking of one thing right now. So you're from a pretty small town in Canada, right? And you went to a small town in Tennessee. Like, how come? Why aren't there any like country singers that come out of Canada?
I think there's got to be.
There's a few.
Name them.
There's one that everyone knows about.
Who?
It's that girl from Timmins. What's Miss Twain? Shania Twain? Have you heard of Shania?
Oh, yeah, Shania Twain. Yeah. She just came out with a brand new one with, I think, Miley Cyrus.
She's still rocking.
She's still rocking.
Yeah.
And there's tons of like great Canadian musicians. I forgot that she was Canadian.
Yeah.
Don't you're gonna ruin my freaking quiz, guys. Don't get into the stuff.
My bad.
Actually, there's more folk too. Like Gordon Lightfoot's another big guy. Like
my dad.
He's a folk country guy. And
I think here's the irony is the greatest country singer, the potential greatest country singer, never even sang country, and that's the Biebs. And if he would have gotten into country music, arguably he would have revolutionized. He would have been like taking over the industry.
You think so?
Who's the Beeb? Sorry.
Come on, don't talk about
I'm
your
not sure.
national
Like,
hero
no,
like
I'm
that.
not too sure.
So you're not a believer?
This is
Believer?
What? A beaver? Believer?
We're not talking about beaver tails here.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
No. So wait. So you're saying that like say Celine Dion, all right, Justin Bieber,
If she would have done country,
what would the country
She did
look
well
like?
with Titanic.
she did okay. But what if she was singing duets with Shania Twain?
I think that there were two powerhouses that couldn't be put together. I don't think they've ever been together on stage, have they?
I don't even think that you can
That
put them
would-
in the same like category because
Definitely
Celine
not.
Dion's such a greater. Now, but do you identify with Celine Dion because she's more French?
You see him tiptoeing right there. He was kind of tiptoeing the line. He's like, she's greater.
Well, as
Greater.
far as like album sales and stuff.
We don't want to offend our Canadian listeners now.
Well,
Okay,
Sorry.
who are we appealing to?
I'll
Okay,
apologize.
hey guys,
Sorry,
none of
sorry.
us are really have our heart and soul behind this Celine Dion battle, Shania Twain battle.
I think he's.
I don't want to
coming
speak for Alex, but
well, I think they have equal talent. I think they could go on a stage together.
equal.
Yeah, of course.
I think you would be
Oh my
really
God.
offending.
But
Celine Dion.
but he's the Canadian. He's the most conscientious of us all.
He knows more than we do.
Right. So I mean, if he's going to offend someone, he'd probably apologize in advance.
Yeah, I think.
Ooh,
Both.
that brings to another good point. Actually, we're just skirting around it.
Should we go into it?
Go into yours because we usually have two events, and I kind of debrief you a little bit. Usually they're kind of like some parlor games, some games, drafts, whatever we do. Today we did two quiz. We devised two quiz.
Okay.
Mine's more on a positive notion, and it's basically
Positivity.
teach us about Canada through my quiz.
Okay.
Eric's is basically you've lived here for 15 years, and you call yourself a Canadian.
I'm a little rusty.
Are
yeah.
you? Do you know the pertinent facts about your own country?
We're breaking
or
protocol.
Are you a Korean? Have you gone native? Is basically what Eric's.
rogue or native?
His is basically an interrogation, is what it is.
I'm just want to know. I mean, like, how well do you know your country? Right?
Well, let's put it to the test.
Shall we? Because I mean, normally we dive into this stuff a little
4
later
inches
on.
of ice.
And me and,
Hold it.
me and Eric did our research. Will 4 inches of ice hold a snowmobile? Depends on who's riding that
Depends
snowmobile.
who's riding. You could probably get
All
a
right.
truck on there too, a small vehicle.
I'm gonna dive into some things. Okay, I've done some research on your country of birth.
They've done research, and I've done.
You lived it though. Do
you
you
lived
need to
it?
do
I've
research?
lived it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll start.
I'm
with
not a
We'll
researcher.
start with some easy ones. Okay.
All right.
Softball.
If you
We've
were to
seen enough
rank,
of those.
what's the oldest brewery in Canada?
Underhand pitch. Underhand pitch.
Labatt's.
Final answer.
Wait, can I guess too?
You can guess too.
I don't think it's Labatt's.
You might be more Canadian than Alex.
I'm thinking Molson.
Molson.
No, you said Labatt's, bro. Don't copy me.
Molson
You're
is
cheating off my fucking test sheet.
Labatt's is it a brewery or is it a Molson brewery?
and I have no.
brews
I,
Labatt
I don't have the
brews.
answer sheet to this test. Eric,
I
can you
think
verify?
Labatt is the beer.
Oh, Molson's not a beer. I thought Molson was a beer.
Molson's a beer.
Okay, tell us the answer.
All right. So the oldest brewery in Canada is Molson.
Molson.
So I'm more Canadian so far.
So far.
So far.
Well, you're
Do you,
Southern
do you- do
Canadian.
you know where
in
the
Michigan.
original brewery is? I'll give you for instance, like it started in 1786.
Can you give us the province?
So
and
not
then we'll try to
only-
guess the city.
It's Quebec. Not only
I was off.
not only is
He's French. He should know that.
not only is this brewery the oldest in Canada, it's the oldest in North America.
Ooh, older than Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Older.
Where is Molson located? And it's in Quebec. So I'm just going to say Montreal because that's the easiest one. Alex?
I'll throw it out there and say Trois-Rivières.
Wow. Oui.
My brother's slaying you right now. I'm gonna have to pull your.
So
Canadian
far,
card.
I'm more
Montreal
Canadian.
is.
So far.
I would have said Montreal if he didn't say it, but
It's too okay. So
Quebec
because you're our
City?
guest from now on. I'll give you. You can answer first, and then I'll do. That way, you're not copying all my answers.
Do you know how much
I'm winning 1-0.
the first Molson bottle sold for? This is just a fun fact that probably
Not on the
knows.
quiz. Okay.
Not on the quiz, but like just guess how much the first bottle of Molson sold for.
5 cents.
I would say 5 cents too. Like
That's incredible because it's exactly 5 cents.
because 5 cents was like $4 back in those days.
So John,
Yeah.
so
That wasn't on the quiz.
The founder John Molson.
That should be a point for me, though.
No.
He opened his brewery and sold his first bottle 6 months after opening.
That's a little bit of a time, huh?
Fun fact, right?
Yeah.
6 months he made it.
6
again.
months. before
he made that 5 cents and recouped all of his investment.
Was it the classic lager that they go with? It was
their ale.
It was their ale.
His regular ale. So John Molson, staying on him. Okay. Where is he from? A Canadian legend.
So
hero.
Are we saying he was born in France? I think he was an immigrant.
Okay,
but Alex, you go. You go.
Sure.
Where is he from?
He's got to be from the Toronto area.
So you think he's Canadian?
Yeah.
I think he's French. Quebec. I think he's an original immigrant from France.
Ottawa?
Both wrong. He's English.
What? An Englishman in Quebec?
He immigrated. He came to Canada when he was 18.
18 years old. Came with his family or by himself?
By himself.
By himself.
Now that you mention it, Molson does sound more English than French.
Came by himself. And his sons to this day are still involved in what's going on. So still a family business.
Okay, next question for points. Let's go next question for points.
Okay.
Next question. Okay.
Definitely down like 4-0, even if we
You're down 1-0. 1-0 so far.
So Canada has a lot of lakes, right? A lot of fresh water. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of facts right here, right? In the world, there's over 1.4 million lakes in the world. Where does Canada rank on the country list of most lakes in the world?
Second.
First.
So what would you say? Okay, you're saying first, right? Mm-hmm. You're saying second. Who would be the first then?
Well, I just have to go with Russia.
Russia's big.
Just because same line, but I haven't been in Russia too. But I'm just gonna say Russia just based on area. I'm aware of all the lakes in Canada.
You are?
But it's weird.
But I've never done that.
4 million in the world. Mm-hmm. My research said there's over 2 million in Canada. So someone's lying. Wikipedia, tell me what's going on.
There's a lot of things like
what classifies as a lake or a pond.
So I got my information from a geological survey.
Yeah.
So
most things that you guys call lakes are actually ponds in my. It's like was it small lake or like what
would the lakes in Korea be classified as? Puddles?
The reservoirs would be small lakes for sure. They're lakes. Yeah.
So Canada ranks number 1 in the world.
I'm up 2-0, Alex. Right? How do you feel? I'm more Canadian.
With over 8, like they have 62% of the world's lakes.
Okay.
Right?
It's God's country in summertime.
On the list, number 2 is Russia. With 200,000 lakes. Canada has over 800,000.
It's got to be U.S. next.
The U.S. is next. And then after that would be China with 26,000. So it's a very large difference, right?
Must have been most glacial activity in the Ice Age in North America then or something.
So Canada also also has the longest coastline of any country in the world.
Wow, more than I guess that makes sense. Atlantic and Pacific.
So if you were to walk
going up the East Coast, though, all the way to the East Coast.
If you were to walk around this coastline, how many years do you think it would take to complete?
Years.
Well, I got long strides, bro.
And what's the height of the walker?
I'll give you a hint.
Stride?
If we're averaging 20 kilometers a day.
Oh, that's not a great hint, but 20 kilometers a day.
The coastline in Canada is 243,000.
We're just throwing out numbers here. Alex, throw out a number.
2 years.
Oh, I think 10 years. So whoever's closest.
Both way off. It'd be 33 years if you average 20 kilometers.
But I'm closer, so that gives me a point.
Closer.
Up 3-0. 3-0.
All right. I'm not sure if you knew this also, but Canada's famous, like staying on the lake tip.
Can we get some multiple choice questions in here?
No multiple choice.
Like that's how I succeeded through school.
Abracadabra.
Where is the geographical center of North America?
It's got to be in Canada. Geographical center
of North America.
I don't even know what does that even mean? Geographical center, like
we got the bottom of Mexico in there as well, right?
I mean, of North America, right? So you go from the bottom of Mexico to the Arctic Circle.
Geographical.
Are we talking about like if you took the weight of all the landmass and where would that point be? Or?
I think it's just like if you took like the kilometers from top to bottom.
From North Pole to the bottom of Mexico, where is the center?
The geographical center.
Shit, Canada goes way north.
It's located in Canada.
It is, yeah.
And they say the globe is skewed. Like all our maps are skewed.
I'll even give you a hint. I know you won't get it because you don't know very many cities in the province.
Well, I'm killing this quiz.
Manitoba, Saskatchewan.
It's in Saskatchewan.
Regina, Saskatoon.
So
Yorkton,
you're killing me because I don't know any.
Moose Jaw.
I'm gonna go Moose Jaw and just see what happens. I don't know that many places.
Your first guess was correct. It's Regina.
Regina.
Right, Moose Jaw's not correct. Sorry.
Is that the correct pronunciation of?
I was pushing him.
Is it
I was pushing him in that
Isn't it
direction.
Regina?
Regina.
That's what every Canadian university would call it.
Yeah.
Or is that like a fun thing?
No, it's
Okay.
not a large population though. Regina.
Let's give you this one. Okay, what are Canada's
Regina.
top? What do you think the top 5 tourist attractions in Canada are?
Top 5.
Tourist attractions. They could be natural or man-made.
Yeah, I think most. Well, Niagara Falls one.
Is that Canadian? Okay.
Well, the better side.
I'll allow
Like
it.
you go to Niagara Falls.
Okay. I'll allow it.
Niagara Falls one. There'd have to be the mountains, Banff, Whistler, BC, Alberta. Let's just say call them the Rocky Mountains.
Okay. You got 3.
You got 3? Okay. I'm going to say Niagara Falls, even though I believe it's the United States. I don't want to get into this. This is not Kashmir. I'm going to say Niagara Falls because it's probably on the list. I'm going to say Victoria Island. I'm going to say Whistler. I'm going to say Banff. And I'm going to say...
Whistler and Banff are sort of in the same category.
They're not even in the same province.
I know that, but it's... it's there. It's all that...
And I'm going to say Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Just because I believe
Nova Scotia's
that's
on
like
there,
a big
should be.
deal for quaintness.
And there's got to be a hunting. There's got to be a hunting, like an outdoor, something along the lines of.
You guys are overlooking 2. All right, so like the natural ones you guys have all nailed, right? The number 1 is Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Banff.
Banff.
Right?
Once you say it, I know it.
Is Whistler on there?
Whistler is number 5.
Okay.
So number 3 and 4 are not natural.
Just Toronto.
Toronto and
Vancouver,
Quebec, probably.
Montreal, yeah. Montreal's a big one.
Number 3 would be the CN Tower in Toronto,
Toronto, yeah.
right? And number 4 would be Old Quebec City.
Old Quebec City.
So who won that question? Is my
I hit the first 3 off the spot.
I think I got those first 3 too.
But I said
And you
Toronto.
also did say that Whistler and Banff were in the same province.
Hey.
Okay. So we'll call that a draw.
We'll call that a draw.
Okay.
And then
This is home field advantage.
3-1. 3-1,
here
baby.
in Canada, right? Does Canada have any lake that would rank in the world as special or unique?
I already know the answer.
Of course.
And the Great Lakes, are we considering?
They are special and unique.
They're very special and unique, but
this
are
is
they
this is a very special case. This is a very, very special case. You're talking about in the world, there are only a few lakes that are like this lake.
Got it. Like Lake Superior is the biggest water volume or whatever. Go ahead.
Lake Baikal is the largest water volume in the world. It's Russia.
Are you sure about that? Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll talk about that later.
I think so.
Water volume.
But
is
next,
not what we're
next
we're
to-
talking about the Canadian Dead Sea. Have you heard of this?
The Canadian Dead Sea.
So it's salty lake.
That's not necessarily salty. Would it be salty? Is it? It's just so large.
Just say a lake. There's a million of them.
Great
buddy.
Slave Lake.
The Canadian Dead Sea is not the Great Slave Lake.
Okay, but I was going to say Great Slave Lake too because it is the deepest body of water in North America. So I just read that this morning when I was talking about when I was researching.
Well,
Research.
Yeah,
Oh,
research.
okay, gotcha.
all right, you guys are both wrong.
So there's a salty lake in Canada.
There's a salty lake in Canada called Lake Manitou in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, it's north. It's the Salt Flats area. It's got to be.
Interestingly enough, the Dead Sea, the salt percentage in that is 34%. This lake is on the same level as the Great Salt Lake at about half. So it's about 13 to 17% like salt density. So you can actually float on this lake.
Ooh,
I wonder what kind of fish they're in that lake.
Probably none.
none.
You think so?
Well,
Is it saltier than the ocean?
I don't think anything just can survive in that.
It's tough. It's interesting because I didn't know that. I didn't know that
That's
there was like
another
this.
research project.
There's
but-
dead lakes everywhere though,
Yeah.
and they don't contain salt at all. But
This one is
have
actually fed by
nuclear waste.
this lake in Saskatchewan is fed by underground springs, but then there's like a salt mineral deposit around there that feeds into the lake as well. 2 more questions here.
Okay.
Can you explain to me? Canadians are very famous for being apologetic, being polite. So can you explain to me the Apology Act of 2009?
Shit, I know this too. Look at it. Go ahead.
Southern Canadian from Michigan.
Go ahead.
I'll give you a hint. It was enacted in Ontario.
Is that a helpful hint?
I think it was when there was a hot coffee from Tim Hortons and the lady spilt it and Tim Hortons apologized because the coffee was too hot.
You said that with such confidence. Are you bullshitting right now? Or is that something you actually remember?
I think that's where it originated from, yeah.
I think it's the I'm sorry doesn't mean you're actually sorry. It's just a politeness thing. Where it's not like admission of guilt or anything. Like if you say you're sorry, it's like he said he's sorry, like that means he did the crime. He murdered, whatever. It's just like that's a polite thing to say, like, God bless you. I'm not actually, after you sneeze, I'm not saying I'm religious and may God bless you. I'm just, it's a politeness.
I've never caught myself sneezing and apologizing, though. That's something different.
But you do say bless you, don't you?
Bless you, yeah.
We're not.
The Canadians are famous for saying sorry.
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Sorry.
So the Apology Act of 2009, enacted in Ontario, says that sorry, the word sorry, is an expression of sympathy or regret, not an admission of guilt in connection with the matter to which the words or actions relate. So that you can't take someone to court and be like, he admitted that he did this thing because he said sorry.
This is kind of bad, man.
This is a blowout.
I'm beating you bad, bro. There's not going to be a tiebreaker or nothing. Let's just get the last question.
Last question. Who named the great nation of Canada?
Fuck, I forgot this one. But I know what Canada means.
You did your research this morning. You should know.
I know. It was anyways, you tell us. For me, I don't need the points anymore, so.
Can we get a multiple choice option here?
We'll say this. I'll give you, because like maybe you're not aware of his name. We'll say this. He was either a local First Nation guy.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, that's tricky.
It's got my vote.
English explorer.
Okay.
A French explorer.
Okay.
Or a Dutch fur trader.
A Dutch fur trader. Hudson Bay Company.
Oh, so that seemed like just a throwaway, but that might actually be the answer.
No, it makes. I just need a little.
Here's an actual.
I need a little bit of a.
Here's a trick question.
It's a Hudson Bay
I believe this is a trick question because
James Bay area.
I don't know the nationality of the European, but the name Canada is a First Nation word. I researched that.
Oh.
So they were calling Canada or whatever they were saying, but it meant settlement, and so that's whatever European came thought that the name of the whole land was. So when you're saying who named it, I mean, the reason we know it as Canada is because of some European, but who named it was actually some kind of First Nation guy. So it's kind of a trick question.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know what nationality the European guy was.
He was the French explorer Jacques Cartier.
Oh, Jacques Cartier. I knew that. I learned that back in the day.
Because the original word, they think, because
Cartier.
there's no way to know, but they said it comes from like the Huron Iroquois word, Canada, Kanata. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Kantata.
But yeah, which means village or settlement.
I got that part. So it's tough to say who named it because obviously the Indians already had some.
They say illegally like appeared on a map of like the lower, I think, of Quebec, of like lower and upper Canada and lower Canada at that time, like in like 1790 or something like that. It came out.
So does that mean that I'm Canadian and he's just?
I think. I mean, basically, what we found out is
please
that
bring me my 9th grade history book.
Oh, you didn't learn this in 8th grade? I'm sorry, in grade 8.
Yeah, grade 8. Yeah.
All right.
Or grade 12.
So that was the interrogation.
Interestingly enough, we didn't learn any of this in school.
Of course not.
Like,
of course not.
And I'm not going to float my boat in American history, but to graduate Canadian high school, we needed to learn American history.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was.
I wonder.
That was a prerequisite.
I would have thought British because I found this out this morning. The Queen of England is actually the Queen of Canada. I didn't know you guys had a king and queen. And so that's something
the Queen of England is
I never learned in American.
She's on her
school.
Money.
Yeah. I knew that.
Yeah.
And you have a duck on the other money. So I thought the duck was maybe the king and the queen was just like a figure mascot.
The beavers hanging out.
Not a duck, it's a loon.
A loony. And a toonie. Looney Tunes. Okay. So, anyways, we're done with
Too
the
many
quiz.
coins, though. They should
have Alex
they should
give
get
us
the
the quiz.
$2 bill back.
We're done with the quiz. Now, back to the actual cast, the actual like subject at hand. Alex, do you listen to podcasts? Is there anything that you're into?
You know,
Is there any cool Canadian podcasts?
I really don't. I'm busy on a regular basis, and I should probably find more time because I know it's very informative, but I'm off it.
Because you spend a lot of the time in the car because you live by me in Bundang, and then you commute down to Pyeongtaek. What's the commute, like an hour?
An hour, yeah.
So in the car, are you listening to music?
I'm music all the way. Mm-hmm. If I need
Got a
to
playlist?
wake up a little bit, just click that artist.
Mm-hmm. Are you on Spotify or
usually
are you
country? No, we use a Django system.
It's another app.
It's a free app, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
So just one of the podcasts I'm listening to recently is this whole podcast about hustlers and gamblers. So I know you play billiards. I mean, famously, I've beat you. Like, there's a lot of witness.
There was one famous game. Yeah,
there was one famous game that was an.
So hold on.
A little blurry, but
what's the all-time record here? Because obviously there was a famous game, but what's the record?
There's a lot of disputed.
What was the score of the Canadian quiz here?
I was up 4-1.
4-1.
Yeah. So
that's similar to our pool record.
I beat you 4 times.
No, I'm on the winning side.
Come on. Okay.
There was one game.
It's very highly disputed. But the most famous time was when we had all the witnesses. You were there.
I was there.
Bob was there. Mm-hmm. We were both drunk. I think we both ended up on the floor. Bob, I think, puked in a parking lot.
I believe so.
Okay. But I beat him that time. And so anyways, it's not about.
Do you remember the location?
It was Osan. I think it was called the Bulldog.
Okay.
And that was what I saw before I blacked out. I blacked out, like in being carried on shoulders for this victory.
Interesting side note: how was I not the most
carried
drunk
on shoulders?
Because normally I was the most drunk out of all of us, and then
that was a great night.
I think Bob. Yeah, Bob. Yeah, that was.
If we bring him on the podcast, he will vouch for that night.
I don't think.
Bob are you disputing that particular night?
Was he chugging IPAs or not?
He was chugging something.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see. Bob, usually he's a man of his word, right? So,
he is.
Yeah.
Okay.
He pulls no punches.
Yeah.
Love you, Bob.
Anyways,
hey, Bobby.
The point is not our record because it's all friendly. It's all
100%.
But we're keeping
track. But you have
saved.
You play in a pool league. Like you're a billiards player. Is that still going on with the whole pandemic and everything?
That's been on pause since March. Yeah, since the start.
So you don't really play that much anymore?
No, not really. But it's still so. I'm not gonna. Are you putting a bet on the table right now, or
no? Look, it's not about you.
Anyone
and me
need another beer?
Yeah, I'll take another beer. Why not? We're just diving in. No, but there's this podcast that talks about. So it's talking about like the greatest gin rummy player of all time. All these legends.
This can looks Canadian. They didn't have any Molson there, so.
It says cerveza. Oh, mic's off.
I went straight up.
Patagonia.
The Patagonia, because they had trees and whatnot on it, so it reminded me of Canada.
Yeah, trees and mountains.
So if you guys were to play head to head, like again, do you think that this game just might get out of hand?
Again,
it would.
Again, it's not about the rivalry between me and Alex, even though it is heated and it's very close, skill wise. But there's this podcast that I'd like to introduce. I'm trying to get to. It's called Gamblers, and it's by The Ringer. You know The Ringer, the radio, the sports radio thing called The Ringer. It's like this whole. They have all kinds of podcasts and stuff.
Okay.
But it's Gamblers, and it's kind of cool. It's like the unsung heroes of like. Oh God, I didn't get mine on the ASMR.
There you go. Boom, boom, boom.
But it's like the greatest pool shark of history, the greatest gin rummy player.
Wait, Alex is on this list?
Alex is definitely not on this list. But, Alex, are you familiar? Like, do you watch pool? Like,
let me. You're good.
Okay, we're having technical difficulties.
It's okay. We'll roll right through it. We'll roll right through it. We'll drink right through it. Bobby, love you, man.
Bobby, love you.
You know, without you, this wouldn't even be possible.
And we do apologize. There was no Canadian Club at the mini mart.
Oh man!
All I could get was Jameson.
You know what, Alex? Do you stock because you're a big whiskey guy? Yeah. Do you stock Canadian whiskeys at your bar?
We've done the Canadian whiskeys, but
does it sell?
Crown on a regular.
Oh, Crown's big with Koreans too.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah,
which is weird.
Every Korean I know has the purple bag somewhere in their car.
Yeah.
The velvet bag. Is it velvet?
The velvet. Yeah. The royal.
Yeah. CC Canadian Club was
it's a good mixer. Brown vodka.
A good, yeah. But they got the sherry cask. You guys have had the sherry cask
like
before.
I was.
That one's okay.
Yeah.
That one's okay.
Yeah. So how do you feel about CC, just the regular 6-year then?
I'm saying like
my personal take is that Canadian whiskey is like a little like lighter. It's similar for me to like say like a Jameson, but like a little lighter than that. And I don't think CC has like an amazing taste. Like if I drank it neat, I think it's okay. I think it's like put on the rocks. It like
I just feel like you're not getting like the deeper caramely cherry flavors. Those notes you're not getting the ones that you're getting from the Kentucky bourbons and stuff. You're 100%. Not really getting from the Canadian. I feel like Canadian whiskeys are good mixers, because they're not going to influence the cocktail.
There are other Canadian whiskeys that aren't on the.
It's almost CC specifically. I agree.
Yeah. CC specifically.
But Whistle Pig.
Whistle Pig.
I think is it Canadian? I think
it's out.
All the grain comes from Canada, but like the actual factories in America or something like that.
Yeah,
but that's a great whiskey.
Yeah, Whistle Pig's a good. It's a good $70 bottle though, right? Like it's it gets.
And the Boss Hog is I think more expensive.
Yeah,
I think CC's a good to make like a whiskey highball. I think CC's good for a highball.
There are a lot of Canadian whiskeys, and I think one that I go to all the time is 40 Creek. When I'm back home, if I go home, is 40 Creek, and it's just a 40%.
Do you have it at the bar?
Proof. No, it's not in Korea.
See, I don't think I've ever had 40 Creek.
Yeah, 40 Creek is just it's the same competitor as Crown in the same level. It's I don't want to say it sells better than Crown, but it's definitely of equal or better quality and at a lesser price, a fraction of the price.
Now, has Canada gone to the whole craft distilling of whiskey because in America, we had Jim Beam and Jack Daniel, and then recently it's just been this whole revolution of like everybody getting into the game, making their own craft bourbon, small batch. Has Canada kind of gone that route? Is 40 Creek a small batch?
I think 40 Creek is a small batch because they're not open to international shipments.
How do we get our hands on this stuff, this elixir?
I don't know, and it's not going to blow your top off by no means, but it'll, if people recognize it, Crown Royal's, the name sells itself, right? No matter where you go.
It's
It's a standard, just like Jameson or Jack Daniels, but those are more renowned for sure.
See, I think but I've seen like in duty free in other places, I've seen Crown incorporating like maple syrup, this or like making these different lines and different types of whiskeys and whatnot, which I'm sure are very popular.
I'm not a fan of this, but
I think like you have to find something that you yourself like, and it doesn't have to be some famous thing. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's just whatever you like. And like I think people shit on other people like, oh, you like that? And it's like what? Like what I like is what I like. That doesn't mean that
you're paying for it.
It's all at the end of the day. It's like
how do you drink your whiskey?
Personal, right? Like if you like CC neat. Like that doesn't mean that you're like low class, whatever. It's just like maybe that's what you like. Like I don't think that's a bad thing.
But I also think there can't be this sort of resting on your laurels. Like if you look at Jack Daniels and you look at Jim Beam, their business model was good for 100 years or whatever, hundreds of years. But you see, they can't compete with the better small batch whiskeys, so that they've produced like single barrel, like. Jim Beam Black Label, and then you go to like what's it called? The Jim Beam's got its better Bookers and all that kind of stuff. So they're putting out more small batch labels that has a higher quality that can compete with the new Young Bucks coming up. And so that's one of the things that I haven't quite seen yet with Canadian whiskey, like with Canadian Club.
But maybe they're doing
what's their rebuttal to all these small batch whiskeys that are, I think the first one was like and I don't even know if you call it small batch anymore, but Maker's Mark. They were the first one, like the new style that came out. You know,
I don't think Crown's probably still outselling all the.
Probably.
You know, like worldwide or nationally, you take Jim Beam or Crown Royal, I guarantee you Crown's probably outselling.
Ooh, I want to look this up. Do you think like as a well, because Canadian Club
as a well,
is a standard well?
CC, not so much. Crown over Jim Beam,
I feel like CC, because of their notoriety during like Prohibition and whatnot, I feel like they're going to kind of make a comeback at some point in time, because they're like one of those old school original like whiskey like distilleries that was there for so long. And I feel like they're going to make a comeback in a strong way with something, because like the sherry cask whiskey that we had, like that was really good.
It's good.
I really liked that. Yeah. Like I was shocked because I was like, CC, I was like, no, I'm good. You know, like maybe I'm mixing.
Well, it's the interesting business strategy. You get into the business strategy where if you're talking about volume, you know, CC might do better, and then you're trying to think, but do they do better than, you know, a premium brand? You know, it's like McDonald's versus your high-class steakhouse. Who would you rather be the owner of?
I remember you did a business model on this in college about the whiskey distilleries, right? Where it was a hard thing to do because you had to wait 18 years for this to sell this one. Or
right.
You did some like
one of my brother's buddies, you know, that he played basketball with, opened up a distillery with one of the masters from Maker's Mark. And he did well, and then ended up selling it to Diageo. And so I did like a kind of a study on that, and it's really hard to start your own distillery because it takes forever because you got to age it.
Yeah.
So
you can't sell it right away. So they were pretty, and like you know, like these.
They were kind of revolutionary though, because they sold the white dog, and then they sold the cask. So it was kind of like a home kit where you age your own, and we had fun with that.
I think I had a bottle of White Dog, and you guys brought the little,
the little barrel.
Yeah, the little barrel.
The little barrels.
It's kind of fun to age your own whiskey.
Well, you can put anything in there too, right?
You can. I mean,
tequila or whatever.
I mean, Kobe puts cocktails in there. I mean, like you can do all kinds of fun stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like Canada's like, I think Canada like is kind of like an overlooked whiskey country, because people look to Scotland, the States, or these other places.
Ireland's overlooked too.
I think Ireland as well, because I think like people like, oh, Jameson, we'll just take shots.
Well, what about Proper 12? Like, has anyone had that? I know it's Conor McGregor stuff, but I've heard it's mediocre at best.
I'm not. So my whole thing with Conor McGregor, anything he puts is because here we go again, because I know you don't run a sports bar.
Yeah.
But the whole Conor McGregor Mayweather fight, have you looked at the highlights?
The McGregor Mayweather?
Have you looked at the slow motion of the highlights on that?
I've watched it a few times, but
I was watching because the whole thing about Jake Paul. Yeah, now I'm into like this whole entertainment thing.
My brother's really into
Mayweather and Jake Paul are set for February, right?
Yeah. So the Mayweather's always been a great self promoter, while not actually being the most exciting fighter, right? Because, you know, he's not a heavyweight. He's a defensive fighter.
He's a counter guy.
And now he's old, but he's still making tons of money, while there's probably better fighters that are in their prime out there right now. But boxing is dying. So they want to see the stars from yesteryear. Like Mike Tyson made a whole bunch of money fighting Roy Jones.
I think the last 3 weeks, every Sunday, we've watched boxing instead of UFC at the bar.
Yeah.
I hope boxing comes back.
And you know what?
I enjoy some boxing.
I would say
name 10 boxers that are in their prime right now.
Which brings me to like I'm saying, I don't think it's because of Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. I think it's because of Nate Robinson and Paul. And then I think it's because of this stuff that now Floyd Mayweather sees, because he's smart. Like business wise, he's very like, the reason he took the Conor McGregor fight because he knew that like that would keep him relevant, that he'd make a lot of money, this and that, right?
Jake Paul will almost be like his Japanese fight he had a year and a half ago. 2 years ago.
What Japanese fight were you talking about?
Mayweather went over to Japan and made like $100 million for.
But that's my point. It's becoming more like pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So my point about the Conor McGregor fight is like whatever, they made a lot of money. I'm happy for them. But was it a real match? Because there's this slow motion of where Mayweather, who's very precise with all of his movements, he had an open shot at Conor McGregor. Open headshot, and he hits wide right to the shoulder. And so it happens really, really fast. So if you're just watching the fight, you don't notice it. But go on YouTube, there's a lot of breakdowns of that fight. And you'll see where Mayweather I think miss easy shots.
I think because of those like YouTube investigations and like where people are breaking down, they're calling the fights exhibitions. Because in the Tyson Roy Jones fight, they agreed that they wouldn't hit in the face.
Okay, well that makes sense as long as you're
like
saying it.
Whether it was like an agreement, like a verbal agreement or whatever, it looks like because everyone's like, oh, they look like they had a deal. Because like Mike Tyson had a chance to hit him here or whatever. And like he didn't take the shot.
Was that okay? So
I don't know.
Was that the deal with the McGregor fight? Because I never heard about that.
I don't know. I think at that time they had like labeled them as exhibitions, but now like Mayweather and Paul's fight is an exhibition. They're saying they're exhibitions, so exhibitions have different rules than regular boxing matches.
Yeah.
So I think at that time when Mayweather fought McGregor, they didn't have this classification yet.
And that makes sense to me. If it's an exhibition, call it an exhibition, and we'll be entertained.
I think that fight was. But they didn't call that,
Because okay, so me and my wife,
we're talking about the
McGregor fight. No?
McGregor fight, yeah, not an exhibition.
Yeah, because I think that they were not. The outcome was already they had sat down at a table and said, "Look, I'm gonna do this fight, and we're both gonna make a lot of money, but I will not lose and tarnish my unbeaten record,
and I'm not gonna hurt you,
and I'm not gonna hurt you. You don't hurt me.
So it's an exhibition.
But I don't think the people that were watching the fight were in on it, and that's what makes
that's what I'm saying. Like
dubious.
it was an exhibition, but they didn't classify it as that. So the watchers who were watching were like, "Yo, this is a real thing." Like Mayweather might knock him out,
and that's the problem because people are betting real money on a fight that the outcome is already staged, like pro wrestling. Like you wouldn't bet on pro wrestling.
Pro wrestling is definitely not staged. Wait, what?
Rowdy.
Wait.
We got our Hulkamaniac over here.
Wait, next thing you're gonna tell me Santa Claus isn't real.
Ultimate Warrior. But I'd say McGregor went into Mayweather and said, "I'm going to come after you." Mayweather said, "Yeah, go ahead." And I think is probably the ultimate choice
because it looked like Mayweather had chances to just fucking destroy McGregor, but he baby shots to the shoulder.
I would say Mayweather probably even gave him the just come at you, but I'm not going to go at you. Come at me, Hit me.
So you think it's just like an outclass of fighters?
It's a complete outclass.
So what about this new fight's coming up? The Mayweather who's Paul. It? Logan Paul? I don't know who these people are. Logan Paul. So everyone's 2-0. Looking at all Logan the training Paul. Videos. And obviously there's a huge difference in weight and size and everything. Have you seen the Logan Paul previous fight?
I didn't see the first one, no.
So I'm not a boxer, but I did boxing as my senior project in high school. So I just know some basics. One of the most basic things you keep your hands up. You keep your hands up. We know this. Yeah. So if you watch Rocky IV, he's got his hands down and it's haymaker after haymaker, which would definitely kill somebody if that was a real fight. Logan Paul boxes that way. Like he was a wrestler. I heard he's pretty decent at MMA. But with boxing, his guard's always down. So if we're doing a real boxing match where it's about points, and which is what Mayweather does, he's not necessarily a knockout boxer.
No, it's an exhibition, so it might be different.
Either way, it's like he's the biggest defensive fighter in history. Is Logan Paul going to be able to land a haymaker? If he lands a haymaker, I'm pretty sure Logan Paul could knock Mayweather out.
Well, I think it's like this.
But his guard's down. So what's to stop Mayweather just tap, get 100 points?
It's like there's a pretty like famous YouTube video out there where like Brian Scalabrine is playing against like normal guys at the Y, where it's like, oh, you think you could beat an NBA player?
The Red Mamba.
So you think you could beat a retired NBA player? Like, and like Scalabrine didn't he wasn't like a star, and it was an all-star. He was like a pretty average NBA player, right? But then the average guy at the Y thinks like, oh man, this guy's down the bench. I could take him, right? But then Mayweather was like elite of the elite. Like was gonna go in the Boxing Hall of Fame if he's not there already. Like I don't know. Right?
Oh, he's the greatest of all time.
So like you're talking about Logan Paul, who's like maybe one of the greatest YouTubers of all time, right? But how does YouTube translate into this? And it's like I think it's a classic case of like Mayweather's probably like, all right, I'll take this fight. Like I got my chance to do whatever. Like, if this is a real fight, but this is entertainment now. And I think Mayweather, because he's at that elite level, he knows that. Logan Paul's probably training like I'm gonna knock this motherfucker out. Yeah. But he can't.
He has a life goal of boxing. So now.
Joe Rogan was talking about this, and Joe Rogan,
and more than boxing, only 23.
He's more like a UFC type guy.
But he knows.
He was watching Logan Paul's UFC stuff. He was like, wow, he actually knows his stuff because he was like a high school wrestler, college wrestler, or whatever. But then when they were talking about boxing, Joe Rogan just laughed, because come on, it's like. Obviously, Logan Paul is a good athlete. Like, that's not the question. The question is he going to beat him at like a game where it's more strategy than knockout? It's not about hurting people. It's about getting points.
Well, look at this. Like, Conor McGregor is one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, right?
Yeah.
And he was like best of the best at his prime, right? And he couldn't fuck with Mayweather. So, like, why would Logan Paul be able to have a chance?
Exactly.
You know, it's like if you're taking the best MMA guy, the best whatever it is, the best amateur boxer, because like Conor McGregor, like even though he's a great MMA fighter,
but it's good
he's an amateur boxer, right? It's good entertainment. Yeah. But Logan Paul doesn't have a chance in hell because he wasn't elite.
I think that's
at any kind of fighting.
I think that's the key word is entertainment. If you take the money out of this whole match, and if they were fighting, you know,
it's a joke.
There's no chance that Logan Paul wins. But this is entertainment.
But
so
what would be better entertainment, in my opinion, would be to see Mayweather just go in and kick his ass. Just put him down for the count.
And Logan Paul doesn't care because he's making money off it. And
yeah, but why pitter-patter around the ring?
But if you look at the precedent, you could say the same thing about the McGregor fight, but they didn't let him kick his ass. It was kind of like decided by the officials and whatnot. So
as of a lot of Mayweather fights go as well by the officials.
Real fights. The real fights go that
too.
way. But you said entertainment, and I am more about the entertainment. I think this is just for money. It's hard to bet on a fight that's just entertainment value and for money. I think Mayweather, for his pride, he wouldn't agree to anything that would tarnish his like boxing record. But it is for money.
Because I think Mayweather's going to go in there and be like, look, if you want to box, we can box. I'm going to knock you out in probably like the first round.
Yeah, I think so.
But if you want to go entertainment value, I will play with you. I'll do this. I'll do that. I won't knock you out.
But you can't knock me out, probably.
I'll get. But I mean, I just don't think that Mayweather, like a boxer of that caliber,
he's never been knocked out.
I mean, I don't think that like he would go in there and be like, "Yo, you can't knock me out," because I think that would be like his pride is so much that he's like, he's gonna tell a YouTuber that you can't knock me out.
But there's also a reason for weight classes because it's dangerous for a lighter boxer to box a heavier fighter. So the fact that they're doing this, Mayweather's very aware that.
Power.
Even in the unlikely event that he gets hit,
you could catch one.
He could probably kill Mayweather. Mayweather can land punches on Jake Paul, a very heavier, bigger guy, and it's probably not gonna.
So they're probably saying like no headshots or whatever it is. But the thing is, they're probably gonna say no headshots, but they're not gonna wear like headgear, right?
Like Jake Paul did to
Nate Robinson.
That
and the thing is, look at the weight difference
Jake
and the
Paul
size difference.
Was up, but Nate Robinson was.
But I think that's why people.
I think that was a real fight, actually.
I think that fight was real, and I think that fight is the reason all these other fights are taking place. Not because of like Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. Because I think people were like, "Oh shit."
Mike was very humble with it too, right? He just said,
I mean, he's 50. He's just happy to make a paycheck.
He's happy to make it, but now he's getting you know, like Wilder in the conversation. And it's all this crazy. I'll knock you out in my prime when you were in your prime. I would
for sure.
Mike Tyson.
If he could land something.
No, well, Wilder said when Mike Tyson was in his prime that he would win the bout.
Who's that?
Wilder would win.
Who's Wilder?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Roy Jones.
Deontay Wilder and
he's
and
a current boxer.
You know, the current boxer lost to the Englishman, the gypsy. What's his?
No one was beating Mike Tyson in his prime. I'm just gonna say that no one was beating him in his prime. Maybe Ali.
But I think now there's actually like NHL hockey players. Back to the old Canadian subject.
God damn it!
Like
here we go.
You know,
you
it's like
son of a bitch.
Even
sneaky
like people are just like starting to bring in hockey players and into the boxing. And I'm not sure the exact article it was, but there's a San Jose. There's a goalie from Florida. There's a few people.
No business playing hockey in San Jose, by the way.
No business
Patrick
playing.
Waugh.
No, Patrick Waugh. Yeah. Yeah. His son is in the league now, I think.
His son plays in the league? That guy was like one of the most like legendary like goalies of all time.
Okay.
He is probably the most
Can we just finish out the boxing thing real quick?
Well, it's going into boxing. Boxing on ice, on skates.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That is stupid.
No, but but this is the thing. You'd have to be a hockey player to do this. Hockey player. You have to be a hockey player. You have to be a hockey player to do this because a regular like Tyson definitely but like I'm pretty sure he can't skate.
Tyson couldn't.
Okay,
skate.
hold on.
Maybe
we're past our mark. We're past our mark.
Are you gonna give him your?
No, but I gotta finish this fucking conversation. Now, here's my question.
This beer is delicious.
Because you probably don't know the top 10 best boxers in their prime right now. Do you?
Right now?
Do you know them?
Right now, no.
You couldn't, but you could definitely name the top 10 NBA players, top 10 baseball players, top 10 football players.
Football players, no. Baseball players, no.
Either way, boxing, what I'm saying, the point is that boxing is a dying sport. Alex, would you rather see, because trained boxers don't get hit with haymakers like Nate Robin got fucking put to sleep, right?
I think 8 people died in the boxing ring last year.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gnarly sport.
Right.
Would you rather see trained boxers fight, or would you rather see like Tom Cruise box Brad Pitt?
I think now people would rather see...
It's becoming like the Gladiator Fight Club.
Yeah. I mean, like people that have all this training, they want to see regular people take the training and like throw their card in the hat.
Do you remember Kimbo Slice?
I want to see
the street fighter?
I want to see trained boxers personally.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would rather see a good fight.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, honestly, but I think the way the general public is now, they'd rather see Tom Cruise fight Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Because the original concept of UFC, if you remember back to UFC 1, 2, it was all
different fighting styles.
It was just a fucking Thunderdome of
jiu-jitsu versus
just
wrestling.
whoever, and see who fucking puts the hurt on, right?
No, it was no holds
And then
bar.
rules and they
now,
hone their
right.
skills.
But when it started, it was like, can jiu-jitsu beat karate? Can taekwondo beat Greco-Roman?
Yeah.
And then now it's like
There's
all these guys
outfit in the octagon.
Yeah.
They wore their garb for whatever like fighting style they had, right? Like that's why like Hoist Gracie and these guys kind of like revolutionized the whole thing.
They should have allowed our cousin Bow Hunter into the original UFC and just see if bow hunting beats all the fighting styles. Because a crossbow is tough to defend against.
To beat, yeah. If you
miss that reloading time,
you're done.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless you're like...
So hold on. You also have a Canada quiz.
Yeah. Okay. Eric's was more of a put Alex on blast, which we don't like to do to our guests. But what I like to do is very Canadian style. Say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And try to build you back up. Okay. Yeah. So here's your opportunity to kind of brag about your country.
Sorry.
Because we focus more on our differences as Americans and Canadians. I mean, we're so different.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But let's talk about what we're similar at. And there's probably a lot of misconceptions. Now, he said something very interesting, is that Canadians, not British history, which is interesting because the Queen of England is the sovereign of Canada. They study American history, and we don't study Canadian history. So here's your opportunity to teach us a little bit.
We're just erratic, guys.
Yeah. You're just all over the place.
You go up there every once in a while and you realize there's some cool shit up there.
Some carameled apples. So here's your opportunity to teach us a little bit about Canada and brag about your country.
All right.
Okay. So the first question, I think, is a lot of people want to know, are there hotter chicks in Canada or hotter chicks in the U.S.?
Toronto.
Oh, so that's that you're saying Canada.
I think every city has its
Los
equal
Angeles can't compete with Toronto.
It's an equal fight.
New York, fashion capital of the world, with all the models there, can't compete with Toronto.
Wait, hold on. Miami?
Toronto's on the same level of any of those international cities.
Okay.
Miami?
Agree to disagree.
Well,
Vegas?
Different clothing in Miami.
Okay.
You know, okay.
Okay. Out of all the
summertime.
Okay, easy. We don't have to get into depth on these. I got a lot of questions here.
Toronto can compete.
Most famous person in Canada ever.
Ever?
Ever's now social media. I gotta say Drake. Just because
more than the Biebs.
Yeah, Bieber's on there, but Bieber.
You don't think Biebs hits more demographic buttons? Like they say The Rock, which The Rock is not the best actor, but he's the highest paid in Hollywood because he hits so many buttons. Young, old, every race. Like,
I don't think Bieber does not hit above 30 in age category.
Even his Christmas carols? Because those are...
No. We're going classics for Christmas carols. Like
he's got... Look up Mistletoe. It's great.
Yeah. Mariah Carey's still popping on the Christmas
always.
Charts? Yeah.
She's just getting paid off that. I don't think she gets paid off anything else.
I know Drake should have one coming out soon, but
okay. So you said Drake.
Yeah.
Okay. Not Kawhi Leonard. Interesting.
Why?
So another thing a lot of people are probably interested about is the national bird. Everyone's understands the bald eagle of America.
Mm-hmm.
What is the Canadian national bird?
The Canadian national bird? This should be an easy one.
I'm going to take that as I dropped out of school in 5th grade. Okay, we'll keep moving it along.
Well, no.
Okay, go ahead.
Do I need an answer? Or
I didn't look this up. I thought you would know this because this is something like I could tell you.
Well, the national animal or national bird?
Oh, is there a national animal? We'll take national animal.
Well, I think, like.
What's the national animal? Do you know that one? Is the reindeer?
We have lots of beavers. And the moose is the most renowned international, but I think the beaver is the Canadian.
Hey, will you give me a double check on this? Because I don't think the beaver is going to be it. Okay, and this is very subjective.
Like beaver.
The national bird is the gray jay.
And that's what I thought it was.
That's the blue jay.
Or the
it's gray.
But it's blue.
They also call it the whiskey jack or the Canada
whiskey
jay.
Jack.
Whiskey jack.
I like the whiskey jacks.
I think that's a whiskey jack.
I think that's a Nickelback song. Okay, so
they're Canadian too.
we're gonna go hottest chick. Do you want to take back your most famous person? No, because of Nickelback.
Oh no.
Let's go hottest chick. And this is very subjective. I already know who I think.
National animal is the beaver.
Oh, it is? It's not the moose?
No.
Oh, interesting.
They're nuisances.
Despite your affinity for Bullwinkle.
Beaver.
Apparently Rocky was the guy.
Always Jason Beaver up there. Okay. Hottest chick in Canadian history.
In Canadian history? This is Shania Twain. She's still a bombshell.
She is still a bombshell.
That's from Pamela Anderson?
There you go.
Yeah, Pamela.
And this is like from when we were little watching. Did you ever watch Home Improvement?
Yeah, I watched Baywatch. And
Home Improvement.
Yeah.
She started in Home Improvement.
She was Tim the Toolman's guy, girl.
Actually, she started doing beer commercials.
Yeah.
Labatt's, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shania Twain.
Shania Twain. I like that though. And I'm not going to disagree with you because
natural is best though, right?
But Pam. Best band and her name, Pam. That's such an old name. I love that. It's like a grandma name for a really hot chick. Okay, best band.
Best band. I got to do a shout out to the Tragically Hip.
Wow.
Yeah. Canadian rock blues.
How can you say it's the best band that we've never heard of?
Well, that's fine.
I thought you would said Alanis Morissette.
Well,
like by and large.
I'll keep my pills to myself, but it's good.
No Avril Lavigne. What's the fuck? There was a punk band that was like Blink 182.
Not Blink, but
what was it?
I think him and Avril Lavigne were friends. Some 41 maybe. I think
Some 41.
I think they're at Toronto. Yeah.
Okay. Best fishing spot. So before this podcast, I sent Alex from the internet from the interweb.
He was studying
the list of the 7 top fishing spots in Canada, and that's one of our shared interests. What would you say is the best fishing spot? Is it on that list
in Canada?
Yeah, there was like Lake Erie. 2 of them were in British Columbia, which
Lake
is
Ontario. The only one on that list that I know for a fact is. The fishery is
Mississauga?
Lake of the Woods.
Lake of the Woods.
Yeah.
And would you like stand behind that? That's the best fishing spot in Canada.
I've never fished that.
No, so
but I've even gone for.
Is that a bucket lister?
It's a bucket lister, but the thing is, so Lake of the Woods is an area where you get a lot of Northern Americans, Southern Canadians from the that border area, that region.
My dad would be up there.
They fly into Lake of the Woods, but where I am and where I was born, Sudbury, Ontario, now you can do a short, like just an hour fly into a remote lake and have just as much success. But
I would almost think that the remote lakes that are off the beaten path, because there's over 1 million lakes.
Yeah,
I've heard over 2 million lakes in Canada. I would think the ones that nobody goes to, you're probably going to get more success.
And there's just even just a 3-hour drive north. There's just lakes that are inaccessible during summer months. You need a snowmobile. You need ice to get to the spots.
Okay, it's a sub question.
Yeah.
Summer fishing or ice fishing?
Summer fishing.
Okay.
But there's nothing like a wood stove.
And I've never been ice fishing. My dad tells me about it. It's been kind of our lore.
You actually have.
Oh yeah, in Korea it's different. I want the cabin over the like
cabin.
grumpy old men.
I think that the cabin is more of like a warming area where you have ice holes around, and bunks in the cabin and a small wood stove.
Well, a lot of the cabins are built over the hole.
They're built over the hole. Yeah. You just lift up the floorboards and you're like, you're fishing in.
So Canada, everyone's like, oh, Canadian food, they just eat burgers and stuff like New Yorkers. What would you say is Canada's proudest culinary achievement?
Culinary achievement?
Like, what have they given to the world stage? Like, the French have the croissant and wine and cheese.
And poutine.
Oh, so you think poutine is that sounds like a French word.
It's a French dish.
Not the beaver tail?
Not the beaver tail. It's a little tough.
Do they eat the beaver tail?
Canadian jerky.
Have you ever eaten beaver? Have you eaten beaver?
It's a protected species.
Have you eaten beaver?
It's a protected species.
That's not the question.
Yeah, it's off
yes
the record.
or no?
We can't drink beer on the podcast anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're getting into real stuff because honestly, most people don't know the difference between U.S. and Canada. Like when you get down to it. What do you think is the biggest misconception about Canada?
Oh, man.
The accent.
Why?
Accent.
Okay, explain.
North Dakota.
Damn. Yeah, we have. My dad
the
speaks
thickest
Canadian.
accent ever, and it's just
no. But Nova Scotia. I've met some people from Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia. That okay. Well, we lost. I'm gonna finish the quiz. He's been drinking. He's got irritable bladder. Okay, we'll finish this out.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah,
he's got a small bladder.
Dead weight. Okay. So the biggest misconception is that all Canadians speak with an accent. And do you think the accent's not as bad as the United States accent or the British accent, or what do you think?
It's not as bad. It's
not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. It's never been a big deal.
For you?
I don't know.
I think people are fishing because, honestly, there's no big standout things that you can like point at Canada and be like, oh, you guys are dumb. But in the United States, there's a huge glaring things. And so we fuck with your accent.
Yeah.
Biggest thing you wish was more well known about Canada?
You got me.
The what?
You got me. There's nothing.
Really? So Bill Burr on Bill Burr?
Yeah.
On one of his podcasts, he was like, because he was talking about all the Americans, with Trump and immigrating to Canada, and they crashed the Canadian website. Everyone's trying to immigrate up there. And one of the things he said, he's like, oh, you think there's no assholes in Canada?
Yeah.
I think
there's still politics. Right?
I think, and I also think it's like everyone assumes that Canadians are so fucking nice.
Yeah.
And I mean,
but on the same record too,
yeah.
Maybe people are complaining about U.S. politics on the Canadian side. They're still complaining about Canadian politics and how things need to be improved.
Everywhere you go, Korean politics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tax, whatever.
Okay. Greatest Canadian athlete. Jay Buhner.
Wayne Gretzky's there. Well, Wayne Gretzky's
Ben Johnson?
daughter is married to.
Ben Johnson was English.
Yeah, DJ from the PJ Golf
Ben
Tour.
Johnson was English?
No, Donovan Bailey is from Oakville, Ontario. He was an Olympic gold medalist for the 100-meter race. I think.
Who's the guy that beat Carl Lewis? Isn't it Ben Johnson?
Yeah, he's English.
But he's Canadian.
He's Canadian?
Who?
Ben Johnson.
The guy
Ben
that got
Johnson?
for steroids?
88 Olympics.
88? I thought
Soul.
I'm pretty sure he was American.
I think he's American.
I'm not American.
No.
I think he was British.
Oh, he was? The steroids guy? I'm pretty sure.
Donovan Bailey was a good sprinter.
Okay.
We'll look. We'll double check that. I'm not sure.
Okay. Now,
I think Lennox Lewis has Canadian ties, but I think he's from the UK and he came over to the States. And there's something in there.
There's something in there.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're
It's not official though.
You're right. Ben Johnson was a Jamaican-born Canadian.
That's where the bobsleds came from then, huh?
Yeah. Apparently Canadian. Also Canadian.
Okay. Biggest difference between America and Canada.
Ooh.
Educate us.
Like
you got to say something. Don't just say I don't know.
I understand. Well, it's the same. This is the same question that I get from all other Americans.
Chicken or the egg, monkey or the vine.
Weather, population. It's very boring, right? But there's a food preference. Of course, we don't have Canadian barbecue like
Korea does.
Yeah, they have their form. I think the food it would be a Canadian roast beef dinner. Like I think that's their barbecue, but I don't know. Like it's tough. We all got professional sports, and maybe we are.
Like my take, like if I'm looking at the difference between Canadians and Americans, is just it's more like a personality type of thing. I think like the way the Canadians look at things, like because like for all intents and purposes, like if you look at what is there in Canada and what is there in America. It seems pretty similar. Pro sports, like, quote unquote culture, whatever it may be. But like, I mean, I think it's just the people. I think the people are.
Well, if you're going to go by that, is our dad Canadian or American?
I think dad's Canadian.
You're going to go with City Slickers, or you're going to go with the Country Mouse as well. It all depends on.
So let me simplify this question.
I think if you're a city.
Even Canadian City Slickers compared to American City Slickers, I think they're different.
Could be right.
I don't know. Like
can I rephrase the question? So it's hard to look at it from the greater perspective because you got politics, sports, all the different things. Tell me the difference between a Canadian house party and an American house party. I think you can like see like all the things that make us who we are in that little petri dish of a science experience of the house party.
I think Canadians are like, for me, I think if I was going to go to a Canadian house party, I think that it would be more polite and more considerate.
You wouldn't have to worry about fights.
Here's the beer. There's always fights.
But you're not worried about getting stabbed or shot.
I think if there are fights, they'd be like, it makes sense. Whereas an American fight, you'd be like, man, why are they fighting? like that's like I don't know.
Alex, what do you think about that?
I don't know.
Well, my last couple of Canadian house parties have taken place in a garage. And like
good vibes.
Good vibes, of course. I'm with the family, with my bro, with my buddies. It's always a party when I come back home and I haven't seen my family or friends for a long time. So everything is flowing, right? But everything is easygoing. There's no stabbings. There might be a couple fist throws, but
how would a Canadian like look at it? Like if we got in an argument and we're at a Canadian house party and I pull out the knife that I've just brought to the party, what would Canadians think about me? Like I'm cheating? Would they think I'm cheating?
Cheating?
Oh, it's a fight.
On a lighter base.
Would they think I was a coward?
They'd probably gang up on you at least and just take it all away and
like, hey, like this.
No, I don't think so. I think I've actually seen a knife at a Canadian house.
I feel like in America, Eric, you've gotten a knife pulled on you. We've had guns pulled on us in Seattle, of all places.
We've had knives in Korea,
and no one's really batted an eye. It's just like, oh, that's what happens.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think like I feel like if I went to a Canadian house party and something happened, it would be because there was a reason that this had to happen. Like in an American house party, like, shit does my head. You might just pour a beer on someone's foot and be like, you're gonna fucking die.
Have to be a Canadian gang war or something like that.
Like I feel like you have to be really
Lieutenant
serious.
Dan though. Yes. But then there's Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan.
I think that politeness, that conscientiousness, like that overall like feeling of community, which is different than in America. I don't feel like they would just go and fight random people. But I'd be like, yo, I'm gonna fuck you up because you're here and you're wearing a color I don't like. That might happen in America.
We had maybe 2010, we had a Canadian English teacher at the time it was a bar, and he pulled a knife on a customer.
The Canadian, And as a Canadian, did you have to step in and say, "Hey, my fellow"?
I had to be the rep. It wasn't even that because it was against other Canadians.
Canadian on Canadian.
It was
crime.
Canadian on Canadian crime in Korea.
So it's hard for you to take sides in that.
Hardest for me to take sides, yeah. But I had to be the referee as the proprietor.
Now, if it was a Canadian versus an American, you'd probably just let him stab him.
It's have to go to friendship here. Like,
it's frowned upon. It's frowned upon. But I'll allow it.
Yeah, that was a very interesting.
I feel like
is that in Bunda?
Yeah,
I feel like if a Canadian
it's long gone now. But
I feel like if that happened outside of
Canadian,
I was about to say Canada. If it happened outside of Canada and that
we
happened,
get that often.
I feel like there might have been something else going on with that particular Canadian. That doesn't sound very Canadian.
It doesn't sound very Canadian.
But there's a lot of things that don't sound Canadian that actually are Canadian. Like, say one of your patrons at your, one of your customers, what if he jumps off, say, a 3rd-story building to prove to?
But he's only harming himself.
And he's only harming himself.
But is that a Canadian action? Because that actually happened.
Yeah.
And a prominent Canadian in the community.
Yeah.
But I feel like he didn't affect any. Like his actions weren't. Like he wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna pull you and jump off the building with you.
Okay.
He just kind of did it.
He just thought he can jump to the other building.
He thought he was invincible.
Yeah.
Okay. Quiz is over.
Turns out it
Awesome.
wasn't.
I feel like we've learned a lot about Canada. Can we end it just owning like a bar in Korea? What is the craziest thing you've ever seen? Because I think like it's got to trump anything I've seen in Korea. Like I've seen a lot of shit. But just
you know what? We've always ran a very respectful establishment.
But that doesn't mean your
except
customers
for
are respectful.
this random knife incident, and a few pool balls going into the wall, a couple fights, couple strangles, choking out UFC style. But there really hasn't been too much crazy stuff. I think it's
jumping off the 3rd-story building.
Jumping off the 3rd.
But that wasn't at your bar.
I wasn't a witness to that. Yeah, that wasn't me. But it's all been good. I really.
What do you do when that
I've
happens in your bar? When there's people fighting and pulling knives on each other, do you feel like you have to ref it for the good of the rest of your
sometimes I have to get involved, right?
In the knife fight?
No, not the knife. I was the referee, and I took flack for protecting the man with the knife because there was 6 others of my friends as well that wanted to take this guy out, but we got the knife away. I held the knife. The knife was gone, but smaller fights as well. There's been crutches and elbows and stuff like that, and everything is around the beer, the mikju, and the whiskey. But take that out of it.
As a bar owner, do you actually get involved, or you're just like, everybody out? All right, if you guys want to fight, go fight in the street.
Well, I've never kicked everybody out. It's always a few individuals that really are the instigators, and they get them out of the way, and then everything else goes back to normal.
Okay.
Well, I've been doing it in Pyeongtaek at a restaurant, and everyone, the military is such a hard-nosed group, right? But it's the best group that I've ever served, so they're clean, they're polite, not one fight.
And they have their own policing institution, right?
They have their own policing.
If they do get out of line, you don't have to do anything. They have their own.
Yeah, well,
MPs
there's that time where there's no one here. It's just the customers, but we've never had to deal with that since opening in 2015 at that location. So that's the most impressive thing to me. That's probably no fights.
It's got to be it's got to like
outside the military installation.
The most finesse as a establishment. You got to be finesse because you don't want to like. They are your customers, but you don't want them to damage the experience of other customers.
Yeah, well, there's places where you can damage your own, shadow. It's what it is. But in Pub 210, completely respectful.
For our listeners out there, if you haven't been to Pyeongtaek and been to Pub 210
or Bundang, Seohyun,
you haven't lived.
Yeah,
you need to
best in my opinion. And me and Eric go everywhere. Anytime there's a new place with foreign food,
best burger,
we are checking it out. Best chicken parmesan, and actually poutine.
It's the old G.
But I can't say that it's the best poutine because I didn't grow up eating poutine, but I just like the poutine.
I've ate a little bit of poutine in Korea, and it's got.
There's other places that serve poutine.
Yeah, well, there's places that claim Canadian owned. I don't do that.
For our listeners in Sarasota, Florida, poutine is a Canadian invention which involves French fries and gravy, and it's freaking awesome. I don't know why we don't have it in the lower.
Are you talking about the retired Canadians in Florida, or who?
God, there's so many, but they're all from French Canada. So,
now Alex, is like your restaurant, like the burgers, obviously the wings. I remember the first time I asked you about the wings, and you were like, just try them.
Just eat the
Wednesday is wing night. Okay, guys. Well,
the beat, man.
We are at our mark. Thank you so much, Alex. You've been an awesome guest.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners, too, for tuning in to PhaseTwo podcast, where we bring on guests and talk over them the whole time and and give them quizzes that hopefully embarrass them. But yeah, great podcast today. First Foreigner, landmark podcast. And we will see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Right on. Thank you, guys.